Do what thou swill be the whole piece of law.
Welcome back, or if this is your first time, welcome. Kinda coming in at an odd time. I am getting transferred into a new living space, and it's currently taking a lot out of me. So if the audio is worse than usual, or you hear some gibbering in the background, that's just because I have housemates now and I'm no longer alone. So I'll take that all into account in the future. This is a bit of a time in transfer, so like usual, please mind our dust. You can expect a return to, or a resumption of good videos, probably third week, fourth week of March. I never realized that unpacking everything that I own would take so much time, but it's not just unpacking, it's unpacking and purging all the other things, and sometimes I wish I had just started over, but you don't have to worry about that. You're just here for whatever this video is titled, something ominous like the house on the rock. But I think you're entitled to hear the story in chronological order, which is quite an interesting story, as it has quite the tagline of the most well-visited attraction that no one has heard of. But I would like to call it the most excessive exercise in excess that I can think of or call to mind. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Where does this start? This starts in southern Wisconsin. Now, the only thing that I know that comes out of Wisconsin is like milk and cheese. But surprisingly, it also produces a lot of architects. You may know the architect Frank Lloyd Wright. This is the guy who designed an architectural design called Falling Water, which brought him to fame, and he has designed a bunch of other houses during this time, from when he was born to when he died. He had a very long lifespan, and he is this amazing architect, traditionally. I personally don't really care. I think his work's a bit derivative, but, you know, that's all art. Art is subjective. I think I produce the greatest videos on the planet, but someone's going to come up here and say, these are low-effort slop. I'll say, probably. I try not to, but I always want to bring something unique. I want to pee in pools that haven't been peed in, per se. But why does this start with Frank Lloyd Wright if this is not going to be about him? Well, this actually starts with a man named Alex Jordan Sr., who is an aspiring architect. Now, you may begin to put the pieces together and say that, well, he just mentioned this famous architect, and this guy that I've never heard of was a burgeoning architect, so maybe they'll meet at some point. And Alex Jordan Sr. was a big fan of Frank Lloyd Wright's designs and wanted to seek him for advice or a job, or the nature of the meeting is very unclear. But when he gets there, he brings all his blueprints, effectively your architectural resume, and Wright says, apparently this is a direct quote coming from the book, reads, quote, "I wouldn't hire you to design a cheese case for me, or a chicken coop," unquote, which is apparently in the architectural world not a very high-ringing endorsement. So instead of immediately having his dreams crushed and going to pursue flipping burgers at McDonald's for $15 an hour, he began to craft his magnum opus, although he wouldn't see it completed. He wanted to build a Japanese house that would, I guess, impress him, but Wright would never see this. And if he could see what his son would produce, it would be an exercise in probably one of the most supreme vindications all throughout history. But during his life, sometime, Alex Jordan Sr. had a child, which he named Alex Jordan Jr. And Alex Jordan, I'm just going to refer to him as Alex Jordan for the rest of the video, I hope that's okay, because Alex Sr. isn't relevant for the rest of the story, so I'm just going to call him Alex Jordan, was also born in Wisconsin around this time, in 1914. And his biggest theme was excess. He once told the sculptor for the house that, quote, "All of my life it has been the same. If I was going to have a drink, it wasn't going to be just one. If I was down to 3 packs of cigarettes, I was panicked and I had to go to town for 7 or 8 more. There's never been enough. My whole life, I've just never been able to get enough of anything," end quote. This is expounded in a lot of things, but is most prevalent in the house. The book also notes that he subscribed to 38 different magazines, including one that was a trade magazine for the sewage industry, which I don't think you could pay me to subscribe to. And his story starts very humble. Growing up in 1914, he begins to build a very small place on top of a rock that he rents from a farmer for about $7. And, well, $7.50 a year, not a month. Remember, this was the 1950s, so calculations up on screen for how much that is in 1950s money. But then, about 3 years later, his dad would buy the entire 240-acre farm that he was renting for about $12,000. And using his father's connections at this time, he would begin building his father's design alongside his father, although his father wouldn't see the terminus. They would both begin building it. That Japanese house that he wanted to show Wright that he could build, and that it wasn't stupid or dumb, and that he would design far more than a chicken coop. He was joined by helpers, friends, professional sculptors, and all of the like. And this house's theme is giants, excess, and all of these massive amounts of equipment and tools and foundational resources are being transported up by hand, because it would only be after a couple years they put in an electrical lift. And to start, they moved 5,000 pounds of limestone, 5,000 tons of mortar, and planted 55,000 trees and 55,000 shrubs. And after working on this place for over 15 years, everyone who was helping Jordan said, "Wow, nice house, it's done." And he said, "Done? This is only halfway done." And everyone looked at him like he was a little crazy. But during this time, about when he said it was done but not quite done yet, it developed a problem where people actually enjoyed wanting to go see it. So that became a bit of a problem for him, because he didn't like them very much. He called them Sunday gawkers. And he's like, "Well, I'll show them. If they want to come look at my house and gawk all day, they can pay 50 cents to get in." And the first day that he opened it for tourism, he got $15, which means he had 30 visitors in that one day. And he said, "I drank real scotch that night." Maybe implying that he grew up in a bit of a impoverished household, but based on what I'm going to go into is in this house, I don't think his household was very impoverished at all. I'd say it was upper middle class, or this was an ongoing life project that basically everything was being poured into that you could also live in. It might make sense for an upper scale middle class home, but also it may make sense if he was more upscale. But let's go into what's actually in the house, because it is quite an experience, an architectural marvel. There are a bunch of mechanical and animated orchestras, large collections of antique dolls, or something that someone goes there to see a lot is the carousel, the massive carousel that never stops, made of fantastical beasts, all contained in different rooms. There are large pipe organs that you can operate with its special little tokens, and so many fireplaces. Some are set for the size of a person. All of the numbers as you just read them are insane. It has been described as the largest collection of largest collections in the world. There are animated sculptures, 20,000 blinking lights, and authentic life-size replicas of 19th century shops. All of these orchestras, by the way, I feel like I should go back because these are a marvel. They were operated as player pianos were operated, and all of the instruments were actually played. It wasn't playing through a speaker. All of these instruments were played by pneumatics, but now it's controlled by computers, which is a little less cool, but it's still amazing. And there's a lot of an Eastern theme around it. The Mikado room contains another one of these orchestras, very much of a quote-unquote Oriental opulence. But instead of playing something that may be a little more appropriate, it plays Danse Macabre, which I think is a little funny. Also, to go back to the carousel, I feel like I did it a disservice. Just reading all the numbers is so fascinating. It took more than a decade to plan, construct, and hand finish the 269 interpretations of real and mythical creatures. This is from the guidebook, by the way. Are arranged in as many as 7 abreast on the deck. It is 80 feet in diameter and 35 feet high, with more than 20,000 lights illuminating the extraordinary concept. And it weighs in at 35 tons, being estimated to be valued at $4.5 million. As you can't ride this carousel, you can only look at it, but all of the pictures are stunning. Because not just the carousel is impressive, mounted on the walls around it are nearly 1,000 antique carousel horses arranged in a quote-unquote stampede. The area behind the carousel carousel is lined with 1,740 feet of mirror, and Alex Jordan, being not a devout Catholic, but taking his church themes to excess, has many angels, demons, mannequins, and other statues that take the place of holy figures spent throughout. He definitely does love his stained glass, as allegedly this house contains the only Bower and Cobble mushroom lamp, which looks amazing, by the way. I wish I could have one. Just for some of the one-offs of the world's largests, it contains the world's largest fireplace that I already mentioned, wind chimes, carousel, organ console. Actually, in fact, the world's 3 largest, because they all maintain in the same building. The world's largest cannon, the world's largest collection of miniature circuses. By the way, over 100 of them, by the way. One of the most complete collections of Frederick Remington's bronzes. Perhaps the grandest collection of amaryllises in the world. A crown jewel replica collection, aka the largest collection of armor in the world, as well as gigantic doll collections. The theme is just excess. It also contains a 40-foot tall perpetual motion clock, as well as a large statue over 200 feet long of a sea creature fighting an octopus, and in that same room, over 200 museum-sized model ships. And remember those miniature circuses that I mentioned before? All of those combined have over 1 million individual pieces, as well as the most complete collection of animated jewelry displays. But all of this is negligent if I were to not mention the greatest room that everyone goes for. It is the most beautiful room in the entire place, in my opinion. You can throw all the sculptures out as mere museum oddities, but the main attraction that people go for, and may know this for, that originally was thought to be impossible, merely a concept, that he designed in the 1940s, produced a design in 62, and then finally in 1985 opened, proving all of his doubters wrong, what he calls the Infinity Room. His idea for the design was, quote, cantilevered from the living room out across the island rock observation platform, and then 75 feet beyond, end quote. Now, if you think that's impressive, you would be remiss to know that it is almost 3 times as long as he had originally made it, as it now extends to 218 feet. And as you walk along the infinite corridor, you can look through over 3,260 windows at the valley below. And the reason why it's an architectural marvel is that it plays to the optical illusion that makes it look as if it goes on forever. And it's amazing. I've never personally gone, and the account from the book is still just staggering to hear and listen to. It's mainly just a recounting from this, but I'm just astonished at the scale. The person who wrote this, Donna Cosi, said, is it fun after the 10th doll, the 100th carousel horse, the 1,000th miniature circus piece? Is it? I personally think it would be. I'm one of those people who lives in excess. I feel Alex Jordan when he says his life was in excess. I don't smoke, but just the amount that I had to move is ridiculous. I cut down what I thought was 60% of what I owned, and I'm still cutting down another 50% of that. It's a journey. But the other thing that I relate to Alex Jordan on is his treasuring of anonymity. He got offered so many times to go on various talk shows or radio shows or anything along those lines. His house is what drew most of the attention, and he never showed up in any of them. He never appeared on TV. He never wanted to meet anyone. If he thought someone knew who he was, he would merely just introduce him as someone else, which, unless I'm doing something public in the future, if I ever do anything public, I say, hey, I'm going here, come meet me, I'm probably going to do the same thing. I am everyone. Why not? Who knows? But I want to read out the last paragraph of the article from the book, because I think it sums it up really well, and I think it's a nice way to wrap it up. So before that happens, I would encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. Please know that it is completely voluntary. We're so close. close. You could be one of the 2 people to get us to 200, and then I could feel a little better of myself, get that dopamine hit, and I'll keep producing stuff. Hopefully it won't be as rushed next week, because literally today I had to go and buy a Wi-Fi adapter, mess around with the Wi-Fi adapter for 3 hours to make sure that my computer could actually have internet to upload the video. So that was fun, and by fun I mean agonizingly horrible, and it felt like I was pulling all my fingernails off one by one. But it's over now, and I can finally treasure the fact that I can move in and have a little bit more positive of a living situation. So hopefully that will be reflected in the content I produce. But Alex Jordan is closed out by this quote from the book, quote, "The house on the rock represents madness backed by business success. Every cent that Jordan earned through admissions was reinvested into the house on the rock. Only one can speculate on what Jordan's creations would be like without money, but I suspect the question is meaningless. Jordan would have earned the money one way or another. His dreams depended on it. Since his dreams were purely material, he may be one of the few people that could actually make them come true."
Oh, and side note at the end of the video, if you actually want to go to the House on the Rock in Wisconsin, it's not 50 cents anymore, it's actually $35.